So, getting to the end of the game, and I have all of the collectibles now except for the 4 remaining letters. One of them, which I have in the mailbox right now, is from Ferris, asking us to pick him up and deliver him, and he'll reward us with treasure. But his locations and destinations are random. At this point, I wouldn't really benefit myself because I don't really need any more treasure, but also because it's random, my delivery would probably be different than yours, so it wouldn't really help you for me to show mine, if that makes sense. The other 3 letters are from Beetle for the gold card at 500 points, the diamond card at 1,000 points, and the platinum card at 2,000 points. I'm collecting the gold card right now because I just earned that in the last video, but unless you're trying to stock up on treasure to purchase all of the optional train sets, there's really not much reason to do the rest of those. So, all that being said, this is the last letter I'm going to pick up in this walkthrough. The horror. I'm just explaining that to say that yes, I am not getting those letters, but my goal is to show how to do everything, and I feel like I've already done that, if that makes sense, so I don't need to get those remaining letters.
Thank you for shopping at Beetle's Airshop. You now have 500 points. Here is a gold card which gives you a 20% discount on all items. You've certainly earned it. Save up those points, and we hope to see you at the shop again soon. Sincerely, your friendly shopkeeper, Beetle.
Moving on to what I'm really at Castletown for, the Take 'Em All On building finally has the red door available, which is by far the hardest difficulty, as well as a sweet place for us to play with our newfound Swordman Scrolls. The reward is just some rare treasure, which isn't really that exciting, but it's a good challenge, and it has a surprise boss at the end that we haven't seen yet, which is pretty cool. Tackle it with me if you like, then join me for the next video, where I will move on to the Tower of Spirits. This floor has 4 blue choo-choos and 4 helmet choo-choos. When grabbing the helmets, remember that you don't have to toss them immediately, you can just let go of the item button to drop the helmet on the ground, and then back up if one of them is getting too close. Otherwise, you can also kill these guys with bombs and arrows, or even the beam blade if you got the Swordman Scroll from Rabbitland Rescue. These green spinets are a real pain to deal with on the ice. I recommend using either light arrows to shoot through multiple enemies at a time, or you can use the beam blade to strike at them from a distance, as alternatives to just using your sword. You can use the great spin, and that is very effective, but remember that you'll be stunned afterwards, so ideally you want to try and start using the great spin as they're low on health, so that you can make sure that you'll kill all the green spinets that are near you, so that by the time you get stunned, they're all dead that are close to you. And again, ideally, if you can stay at full health for as long as possible, that would be great, so that you can use the beam blade on the later floors. It's really helpful later on. Try to get to one side of the room as soon as possible. These Stalfos really aren't that hard until you get surrounded by them anyways, and then it's a real problem. Remember to hold still just before they throw their bones at you to defend, as long as you're facing their correct direction anyway. And remember, as well, that bombs and arrows are your best friends against these guys. Bombs are, amazing. They'll kill any Stalfos in one hit. Alternatively, for this room, you can use light arrows to take out several at once, but you'd have to time it really well. Either way, though, I'd recommend you keep your distance so they don't suddenly fly towards you. This room may seem really intimidating at first, but it's actually pretty easy. Just attack one of them until it starts charging up, then switch targets. just try to keep their range in mind, and remember that sometimes they'll hit twice, like they'll swing and then they'll backswing with their mace, and they'll naturally kind of huddle up and be like one big clump in the middle, and their strikes will actually damage each other, so if you keep taunting them into attacking, they'll just kill themselves. Partway through, I start having fun with great spins, but notice how I get out of there before I get dizzy, so I'm making sure that I'm not vulnerable while I'm standing in front of them. At the end here, I kind of thought this guy was dead, or like he had very little life left, so I stayed. Turns out he had a few more hits left on him, but I managed to get away before my dizzy spell wore off, so I got away in time. Oh well, it was totally worth it. The Great Spin is just so awesome in these 2 DS games. You can just run in there and do lots of damage and run away real quick. So most of your items are not effective against these guys. Bombs are amazing, but other than that, the whip is okay, and arrows are only really good if you can charge them up. Don't use the Great Spin because it can be effective, but oftentimes they'll just jump out of the way and you'll probably get hurt. Now if you have enough health, you can take them all out with the Beam Blade, and that's pretty cool as well. But again, you know, bombs will take them out instantly, and you have way more than enough bombs at this point, probably. These Garoons can only be defeated with the Sand Wand, and a quick tap will render them completely helpless, for a few seconds anyways. So what you want to do is just focus on one at a time, like making it solid, and if any of them get too close to you and start chasing after you, you can just either run away or just quickly tap on them with the wand, and then they'll just run away from you in the meantime. Not much to say about these Urgtaroks. You want to use the Sand Wand to stun them and go take them out. They aren't really that hard to avoid, but if you really want to make sure they can't hurt you, you can just raise yourself onto a sand platform and stay there the entire time, and they won't be able to do anything to you. This room can be really difficult. You aren't allowed to use any items, but if you have full health, you should be able to use the Beam Blade to kill them really easily. I actually took out the first one of this room to make it a little bit easier, but otherwise the two tactics you can do is, when you first enter the room, generally the turtles are just kind of wandering around aimlessly, so you could just go hang out in one corner and just take out one corner at a time, and that's really easy to avoid them that way. Otherwise, if you gather them up and so that they all see you, they'll chase after you, and you're probably best off keeping them all on one side of the room, and that way you can just kind of lure over one at a time. It kind of works, but it's really hard to do that too, because they're all clumped together like that. So I got kind of impatient with this room, but by far the best tactic I found is to just chill in a corner, doing nothing, until they're all slowed down. Just watch your map, and when they're not moving around anymore, all you have to do is just go like inch forward and let them see you, and then once they start chasing after you really slowly, they kind of just start floating towards you. Then line them up, and you can shoot them with a light arrow, charge up your arrows, and the arrows will go through them, and it should kill most of them. So you can kill like 3 or 4 guys at a time with each shot. So that is by far the fastest way to deal with this room that I have found. Otherwise, you could run around doing great spins, but it's really dangerous to do that. You'll probably just hurt yourself a ton. So yeah, as you can see, I keep, like, getting impatient and smacking them with my sword, which turns out to be a huge mistake. I should have just chilled out and just let them all slow down completely, then I could have just shot them with light arrows. I mean, I could have used one more arrow and killed all of them all at once, but instead I just kept smacking them and stuff, and it just took forever. No! We've already fought this guy like 3 times. Isn't that enough? We fought him in the temple, we fought him in the first difficulty for the Take 'em All On challenge, the second difficulty, and now we're in the third difficulty and we're still fighting him. Isn't that enough, Nintendo? Why not just like put us in a room with a ton of mini blends or something that we could just great spin them to death? That'd be awesome, but no. Instead, we're back here fighting him again. If we really wanted to fight Stagnox, all we had to do is enter any of the other doors of the Take 'em All On thing, you know? Like, I don't know, we're here at the end of the game, and instead of just throwing a bunch of challenging stuff at us, you give us, like, the easiest boss in the game. I don't know. Never mind. As usual, run around until he attacks, then use the whirlwind on his poisoned backside to stun him. For the second phase, you want to kill the 2 blast worms, then smack the third one so that it's sitting there by itself, and wait until Stagnox tries to charge at you, then blow the third one into him. You can also start using spin attacks so that by the time he lands, you'll have a great spin in the works so you can do massive damage to him. Oh great, this guy again too. Like before, you want to use the opposing element on him for his main form, as well as his 2 individual forms as well. Just keep watching your map so that you can make sure that you're hitting the little fire dude with ice and the ice dude with fire, etc. For the rest of the battle, wait until he attacks, then use the opposing element on him again. Remember to lock on with the boomerang multiple times to make sure it works. If you just lock on once, then it'll just not work. So you just kind of like drag a path over and then scribble it a whole bunch so that you make sure you're hitting him multiple times with the boomerang. Also, once you do stun him, if you plan ahead a little bit, you can start using a great spin on him to do additional damage because it does more damage, or rather it hits him more often and faster than regular sword slashes do. Oh, Phytops, you silly vegetable you. I don't really have any massive advice for this guy. When the tentacles are whipping the arena, that's probably the hardest part to avoid, in my opinion. When it's just tentacles, some blocking your arena and the two above, you can just walk back and forth. Walk left, then right, then left, then right. And one thing you can do, too, is as the tentacles on the sides are leaving, you can quickly try and grab them with the whip so that you can have a thorn before the next section of the boss battle starts. Like, you know, before Phytops even pops up, you already have a thorn ready to go. So when the tentacles and Phytops are present and he's slapping the arena, what you need to do is walk one way, then the other, then stand in the middle because they'll both hit at the same time. And this can be somewhat kind of odd to position yourself as well when the boss is later on in the battle. He's like steadily circling around, so he's kind of rotating around the arena. And so you have to kind of compensate for that and make sure you're standing between the two tentacles that are blocking the arena. Alright, this guy, when he lifts his fist, you want to shoot the glowing spot on his belly to harm him. This makes him angry. And then you want to run around until he smashes the arena, and this will cause a boulder to fall from the ceiling. You can either trick him into smacking it with his fist, or you can use bombs to blow it up and flatten it. Once you have it flattened as a disc, you want to run over, grab it, and bring it to the minecart on the far right so you can get across. Now for this first part of the boss, you want to just simply grab the boulders that he's shooting. Now one thing that's unique about this too is at the very beginning, he only shoots one boulder at a time. That's his only attack. He doesn't shoot multiple boulders, there's no lasers, there's no, like, I don't know, that's it. That's his only attack. So, because of this, they're really easy to stop, they're really slow, it only takes a minimal amount of sand to grab them. So, one thing that I like to do is to grab a whole bunch of boulders ahead of time. And he has 5 spinal discs, so actually the smartest thing to do is probably to get rid of one disc and then position all 4 of the other boulders. And then all you have to do is just run around and you can use all of them straight in a row. It's really easy. So we only have a few seconds to deal damage to this guy, and a Great Spin is, like, amazingly effective against him. It's pretty epic. I don't really have much advice for this guy other than a few observations. He has most of the same attacks that you do, and you're best off probably just trying to stick with just generic sword attacks to damage him, rather than trying to use his bombs against him or whatnot. If you try to attack him from the front, he'll block you with his shield, just like you. To get past his defenses, you need to either attack him from behind, or hit him while he's in the midst of performing another action, such as holding a bomb over his head, or in the midst of slashing the sword himself. His actions are pretty random, though standing close to him does kind of encourage him to try and stab you. A pretty effective tactic that I have found is to run away from him, stray side to side, and then come back. When you do this, it kind of forces him to do a few different things. He could try and shoot you with arrows, which are really easily avoided or blocked. He'll try and chase after you and attempt to jump attack you, and this is really easily dodged, and you can just turn around and smack him because he's vulnerable. Or he'll just run off in a random direction. I'm not really sure why he does that, but he's often facing away from you, and this makes it really easy to kind of chase after him and stab him in the back real quick. If you have the Great Spin, you can use that. My advice for that would be to try and get behind him, and you can just smack him in the back repeatedly until he turns around. Then you want to just stand there, and what will happen is your Great Spin will smack into his shield, and it will stop your spinning, which is actually a good thing, because otherwise you'll get dizzy and you'll be vulnerable, but if you smack his shield, then it will stop the spinning. And as soon as that happens, you want to quickly run away from him and get in a better position, because you'll most likely be having your back facing towards him. So you want to either try and stab him real quick, or run away. I recommend the running away route. Otherwise, probably the hardest part about this is just simply tapping on him, because he moves around so quickly, and because you're moving and he's moving at the same time, he's a moving target, you may find yourself accidentally double tapping on the screen all the time, which causes you to roll, and when you roll right next to him, he'll just quickly slash you, and you're kind of guaranteed to take damage. That's all the advice I have, not much I know. Basically, just run away from him, strafe back and forth, come back and tap on him. That's really what I'm trying to say. So just watch him carefully. You should be able to kind of tell what he's trying to do, although he does kind of change tactics constantly. When you're all done, you want to go ahead and leave Castletown. We're done with everything we need to do here, and return to the Tower of Spirits, where I will join up with you in the next video.